Ladies and gentlemen, this video is being recorded in 2025, and right now, the best chess player in the world is named Magnus Carlsen. He beats everybody, he beats them all the time, but what if we took the entire world, put them on one team, and paired them up against Magnus? What would happen? That's the purpose of this video. We're about to find out. This was a game organized on chess.com with a bulletin board voting system, and it's the modern version, if you will, of Garry Kasparov versus the world, which happened in 1999. I have a video about it on this channel. You can just look up Kasparov versus the world. Couple of key differences, though. In 1999, Stockfish was not so easily accessible. Right now, you can access Stockfish on your phone, on your refrigerator, on your computer, anywhere. Back then, not so much. So, would the world be tempted to have its opinions shaped by Stockfish? Or would they simply rely on their coaches? There were several coaches training the world team, and we're going to get into the game right now. That's all I have to say. I believe both sides had 24 hours to make their moves. I don't think Magnus took 24 hours to make the moves. And one more key difference. The back row of pieces was randomly drawn, and this is a Fischer random or freestyle chess, if you will. So I think they did this because Magnus is obviously one of the biggest ambassadors for the freestyle chess concept, and I think he didn't want to play opening theory against the world. Now, the world is getting a GM title because combined their rating is 143,000. It's because each of their ratings is 1. Okay, Magnus still opened the game with the move e4. Now, if you're looking at this and you've never played this format, you just got this in the YouTube algorithm, or you're a beginner, yeah, I know, it's a little bit confusing. The king would go there to castle, and the king would go to these two squares to castle. You would need to move the two knights. But don't worry, within 10 moves, it will look like a normal chess position. By the way, white could have played f4, white could have played f3, white could have played knight c3, knight b3, d4. Any first move is good. And that is why this is kind of an interesting format to some grandmasters. The world responded with the move e5, which is reasonable, but not the best move. The best move was to play a gambit. According to deep Stockfish analysis, e4, f5. Fun fact, on a regular chessboard, e4, f5 is called the Fred. You guys remember that YouTuber? Man, that was ages ago. Hey, it's Fred. That was like, I wonder what happened to that guy. I don't know. Man, had to be gangster, had to be ninja. Glory days. But there was no GothamChess back then. Anyway, e4, e5. And Magnus plays a gambit himself. You will notice one thing about Magnus Carlsen's chess, especially in freestyle, is he loves to bring his queen out. He always finds a way to get the queen to the center as fast as possible. And that is the point of the move d4. He could have played other things, but he decides to be very aggressive straight away. And here, in a shocking turn of events, the entire world took the pawn on d4. And Magnus played f3. This is the point. He wants to activate his queen. Oftentimes, he then drops the queen back. He develops the knight. He develops the other knight. He develops the bishop. Bishop this way. He's very good at pacing the game the way that he wants. Now, if black were to hang on to this pawn, which looks like a very natural move, it's actually bad. Why is it bad? Blocks the bishop. Weakens this square. Because these two pawns cannot fight for that square. So white would play c3. And after pawn takes c3, knight takes c3, despite being a pawn down, count the pawns, white has 6 pawns, black has 7. If you're watching this, it's really not good to be down pawns, but sometimes you have what's called compensation. You are compensating, right, for your lack of a pawn with other things, like how some people compensate for having no personality, with driving a really loud vehicle or motorcycle, you know? It's just compensating. Now, the world didn't fall for that. They went knight c6, and Magnus insisted on winning the pawn back. And after f6, Magnus took on d4. Now, this was maybe the final chance for the world to play this aggressive counter-attacking move, pawn to f5, exclamation point, question mark in chess it's like interesting. If you do it the opposite, which is question mark and then exclam, it's dubious. All right? Dubious Malfoy, Draco's cousin. But instead of that, the world went f6, and Magnus took on d4. And now Magnus's game is going to be very simple. He's going to bring his queen. Like I said, he's going to play knight here. He's going to castle his king, put the king there, put the rook there. Kind of a long castle. In this case, it would be left side castling. And the world, after about 6 moves, was just not doing particularly great. I mean, their position was pretty passive. Fun fact, the world almost lost in 5 moves. Yo, world, y'all are ass, man. One of the top moves here being voted upon was bishop c5. Bishop c5 pins the knight to the queen. On the surface, it doesn't look like a bad move. Except, sometimes in moments like this, you get judo flipped. Knight takes c6 is a check. And after you take the knight back, I would take the bishop for free. Now, if this knight were to have been captured with a different piece, like a queen, it would be fine because the bishop would be protected, but that's not possible. You'll have to excuse me, I'm coughing a little bit. Got a little bit of a cold after coming back from abroad. Knight takes d4, knight takes d4, and the world did not blunder that at long last, despite gaining like over 30% of the votes at first. And then we get to this position. And here the world played knight b6. Now, thus far, it is quite clear world ain't using stockfish, man. I mean, it's really clear. Like, the coaching is not working, and they're not using any sort of engine. And I have a feeling they showed up to this game, and they were like, we're just going to wing it, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. We're going to lose. We're playing Magnus. But then they locked in a little bit, all right? Then they locked in. So Magnus develops the knight. Nothing special. And the world makes a grave mistake. So after they nearly played bishop c5 and lost the game, they really, really insist on sucking ass. And after 7 moves, they're losing again. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is buffoonery out here. They're just losing now. They're losing in 7 moves. Why are they losing? Well, by castling, their only idea is to support a central pawn advance, right? So if Magnus plays bishop to g3 in this position, he has a dominating position because he's targeting the king. Long-term ideas to go checkmate, not right away. And black cannot move this bishop. He can't develop the bishop at all. So if black then plays something like this, knight b5, and white just wins. Bishop g3 is a crushing move. Magnus didn't play it because I think he just spaced on the fact that after pawn takes, he can just castle long. And he himself is completely winning. He's totally winning here. If Magnus had played the move bishop to g3, I think this game lasts like 12 moves. I mean, I just don't even know what the world would do here. They don't have a move. They have to play something like h5, and white is like 2 attacking moves away from just landing a knockout punch. I mean, you would need to play like, I don't even know what you would play. If you play king b8, Magnus will hunt you down knight b5, d6, and then just play a4, a5. You don't have a move. I mean, at some point, you got to do something like this. Let me tell you, you got every piece on the back rank. You've played chess the wrong way. I don't know what the heck you're playing. Playing mahjong, all right? That's what you're doing. You're not playing chess. Or mancala, the game where you know, I meant to say mancala. I don't know anything about mahjong. But he didn't do that. Magnus didn't do that. He himself plays long castle. Now, again, I'm not too sure what the move times were. I have a feeling this is the extent of how Magnus played this game. I think Magnus opened his phone, made a move, and put his phone down and went on Twitter. Like, I don't think he sat there for hours analyzing. Maybe he just thought, damn, the world is much worse than I thought. Let me just take it a little easy on them. I don't know, but now the move bishop g3 has been prevented. The world has, in fact, developed the bishop. Their position is still pretty bad. And again, Magnus can put his foot on the gas with a4, a5. This is the way. When you have pieces like this standing in front of a king and no pawns, this is the major thing. Black has not put anything substantial pawn-wise in the center of the board. Pawns dictate who has more space in a chess game. And who has more space is able to enjoy that space and put pieces behind those pawns and enjoy that space. When you don't have any pawns in the center of the board, you really struggle because you can't put any pieces forward, right? Now, Magnus goes to trade off this bishop. And that might have been kind of relinquishing a little bit of that pressure. Now might have again been this moment to play a4, a5. But again, after the world nearly lost twice, I think he was just like, I'm going to trade the bishops and we're going to chill. They took, and then they brought this pawn out to control a little bit of space. By the way, instructive that the world played d6 before they played bishop d6. You do not want to imprison your own pieces like this. They're there for a reason, right? That's why instead of that, what did they do? They brought out their bishop, they traded off their bishop, and now they have the same position, but they don't have a bishop over here. So don't trap your bishops behind your pawns. Now, again, Magnus is still better. Probably he should still consider a4, a5. Probably. He plays here. Again, king b1 is a blitz move. It's a move where you're playing a 3-minute game, you've castled to the queen side, and it's almost always useful when you've castled this way to play king b1. Number one, you always have the pawn protected. Number two, you get off of this diagonal. Nobody can really attack you on that diagonal. I think, again, this was maybe the moment Magnus could have played a4, a5. But these three moves, these kind of slow moves, this move, which was a little bit slow, he could have played bishop g3 right away. This move, which was fine, there was nothing wrong with this move. And king b1, just sort of, you know, he played these three moves, and all of a sudden the world got back into the game. They got back into the game. They locked in, the coaches started coaching, you know, they were feeling inspired, you know, and suddenly they have a pretty good structure. They have a queen that's coming to be traded, and they are a little bit more passive. Magnus definitely has a little bit of pressure on their position, but overall, nothing too crazy. Having said that, they screwed things up nearly immediately, 143,000 of them, over the next, like, move. So here, again, what are your plans? How do you make a plan in chess? The hardest thing, everybody watching this video right now struggles at this, including me. I'm not watching this. I'm watching myself make the video. Maybe I'll watch the video later too, because I'm a narcissist, but we all struggle, right? When I'm looking at this position, I am still considering a queenside expansion. I want to push that knight back. I want to go here. I want to put my knight on d5, and then I want to develop my bishop here. These are kind of like the moves I want to make. You always got to wonder about your pawns. Like, do you move the pawns now? You can. There's nothing wrong with g4, g5. Could be possible. You could play g4. But the thing is, black is going to play queen e5. Chess is also about knowing what your opponents are going to do. And so because of that, Magnus goes here. It's a very interesting move. And the point of this move is this is no longer a queen trade. This is going to be met with f4, pushing the queen back. And now Magnus is going to, again, go back to these attacking ideas. Also, there's kind of a weird, even long-term idea, not right away, but to rotate that rook all the way around. And the world immediately plays a move that is an insane like a huge decision. Pushing pawns in front of your own king, especially two squares like that, very dangerous. Why? Everything gets weaker back here. And they are baiting Magnus in to continue the attack. Queen a5. Attacking the pawn. The world goes king b8. And Stockfish loves the position for Magnus. Loves it. It immediately has this square to work with. And it just wants to go knight d5. After knight d5, white is enjoying a great position. Why? Well, the knight is under attack. You cannot take, because I would take the rook. On the surface, you look at this position and you really wonder, what did Magnus not like here? Now, there is a trick here, which is bishop f7. This is the trick. And the point is, if you take on b6, and I take, you cannot take, because I have a battery pointed right there. That was what Magnus definitely saw. He saw that after king b8, knight d5, bishop f7, if he plays a move like c4, he doesn't think he has the advantage. Guess what? He's right. What he had missed is after bishop f7, he has the alien move, bishop to b5. What this move even does, I can't even explain to you. I've analyzed the game previously, and I don't even understand this move. I don't get it. It's basically just a move that frees up the white position to do whatever, to take away important squares from black, and maybe to start doubling the rooks. It's just like a useful improving move. And if the knight were to take, you take with the pawn, which is super counterintuitive. And then when the queen goes back, now you have rook e1, and you have a very dominating position. It's just a useful move. It's just a move that is useful. You can't play a6, because I take on b6, and then I have a huge attack. So if Magnus had, again, found Knight d5, followed by bishop b5. I think he wins this game within the next 5 to 6 moves. He has an absolutely crushing position. Rook d3, rook e1, rook d1, rook b3, rook a3, crushing. Instead of that, plays a calm move. He plays b3. b3. Controlling important squares, blocking this diagonal, probably thinking, well, it's easy. I'm going to put 2 pieces on these 2 squares anyway. It doesn't really matter which way I do it, and I'm going to be very happy. Maybe I still play a4, a5. My queen's a little trapped, but but the world was done giving Magnus chances. They were done giving Magnus chances. They activated their position. Now they have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces ready to look at the center of the board. They're going to rely on a pawn break, a pawn attack in the center of the board. And even though Magnus still looks to be applying the pressure, the world struck back with the force of 143,000 fists. Sounds like an anime. A giga fist. And they played the move d5. Magnus himself had said in an interview after he had missed this idea. I'm going to be very honest, okay? I'm going to be very, very honest. I think he only missed that idea because he played his move in like 10 seconds. Look, call me a hater. Call me a hater. I'm pretty sure he opened his smartphone on the toilet and just like played a move and went back to reading the news. I'm just saying everything is D5 is there's obviously more to it than that. There's obviously more to it than that. But the point is, black is now going to liberate some of the position, right? Pawn takes d5. Knight takes d5, knight takes d5. And now rook takes d5 is the important thing. Rook takes. And even though white still has some stuff, he's pinning the rook to the queen. It looks like white is maybe winning. Rook takes d1, rook d1. Still, it looks like everything is under attack in black's position. Black's just super cool, calm and collected. Queen e7. And suddenly you're like, wait a minute. Not only does Magnus not have an advantage, I mean, the advantage has gone up and down throughout this game. But not only does he not have an advantage, I'm not sure he has a target. Previously, he would lose a little bit of the advantage, but at least he had a target. I'm not sure where the target is. Everything is protected. Every single thing is protected. That rook is not, but good luck getting to it. And the world plays b6, kicks out his queen, and just brings the king. A king move in the middle of the whole thing. This is a check, but it doesn't really matter because you can just play king to b7. And queen f4 check is what Magnus went for. And the world can play queen e5, by the way. They offer a queen trade. They actually kind of threaten to damage their own pawn structure because even if you attack this pawn, black just plays like king d6, for example. You don't have enough. You don't have a target. You just don't have a target. There's no way to win this position. It looks like questions should still be asked. This was maybe the last chance. Maybe Magnus could win here and then a5, I don't know, to get something like this, played a little bit more provocatively, but queen e5 is what they play. Magnus is like, all right, look, I'm not going to trade the queens with the world. World just goes back. They are provoking the GOAT. They are like, well, do you want to draw Magnus? You want to play queen f4, queen e5, make a 3-time repetition? That would be a draw. Magnus says, no, thank you. By the way, crazy. Bishop b5 is one of the best moves. Like, even this deep into the endgame, my man is working his endgame magic. We try to trade the bishop in front of the black king because it obviously keeps it well protected. And if the bishop takes on b5, you know, many people here would get nervous about all these kind of weak squares around the king. That king is way weaker than the white king. Way weaker. I mean, we have all these ideas, but we can't get there. If we go here, they take. If check, block, back, there. Magnus is like a move from winning the game, but he doesn't have that move. The world arrives 25 moves into the game. They remember that they have a rook. They had forgotten about it. And now Magnus has to trade. Why does he have to trade? Because if he doesn't, if he goes rook h1, guess what? It's actually black who has the more active pieces, probably in the long run. So Magnus trades, and I think at this point he kind of knew this is not going the way that he wanted. He plays king to a2, passes it back to the world, and the world infiltrates. Queen to e2. Sacrificing their entire lot of pawns, counterattacking the pawn over here, And the game could go on here, maybe, but not so easy to figure out how. That's just the reality. And so Magnus Carlsen took on g7, and that means that the world goes queen takes c2 and traps his king in the edge of the board, and they repeat the position 3 times. They could have kept the game going. They could have went queen d2, king a3, and took a pawn. But there is absolutely no need to do this, all right? And Magnus didn't hire 100,000 Norwegian bots to, vote the wrong move. So they took, and the game ended in a 3-time repetition and a draw. So the world can now say Magnus Carlsen could not beat them. This thing started weird, man. The world started off in just a purely worse position, all right? And Magnus couldn't capitalize. He had this moment. He could have played the move bishop g3, totally paralyzing the black position. He would have had a very, very strong advantage, or even a4, a5. But he kind of was like, I'm going to ease my way into it. I'm going to castle. I'm going to do the principled stuff. But that gave the world just enough time to maybe stabilize. And then when it was finally, time to make that push, he still didn't. The world had a very stable position, but Magnus did what Magnus does. And literally within 3 moves, he had his next advantage, but he had to play knight d5 with bishop b5. This was basically his one and only chance. He had a few chances early, like in a football match. He had a few scoring chances in the first 13 minutes, 14 minutes. Then he had nothing. The world locked in. Their coaches locked in. Their devices locked in. Something locked in. And they played very well to stabilize and end up not losing to the best endgame player of all time. So there you go. Maybe we'll do this again. Maybe not. Maybe we do it. Maybe we do the world against me. I don't know. All right. Somehow, I'm going to be honest, somehow Kasparov versus the world of 1999 had a little bit more aura, to use a little Gen Alpha term, because back then nobody could analyze positions like humans, that was a pretty crazy time. Now everybody's so interconnected. I mean, everything's on a smartphone, social media. Somehow the world concept is maybe not as fascinating as it once was. But we never got this before. This was the biggest ever online chess game played, and it ended in a draw. Congratulations to the world. I don't think I should be congratulating Magnus. I think he wanted to probably win, but congrats, Magnus, for participating. And that's all I have for you today. Maybe the world versus Gotham Chess will be next. Get out of here.